I'm Melissa Cheng. I'm 34 years old. Last year, my own parents forged my signature on a $320,000 loan to save my brother's failing restaurant. When I refused to pay it off, they sued me. What followed nearly destroyed our family and changed me forever. I remember the envelope feeling strangely heavy in my hand. Certified mail always makes my stomach drop, but this was different. It arrived on a Wednesday evening, just as I was closing up the last of the expense reports for a client. My apartment in Oakland was dim except for my desk lamp. I slit the top of the envelope with a graduation gift letter opener, something that was supposed to feel adult and competent. It felt like a scalpel now. Inside was a crisp packet. Personal guarantee agreement, printed in block letters at the top. My full legal name typed neatly below. I had to read it twice before the words made sense. Loan amount, $320,000. Purpose, restaurant acquisition and renovation. Borrower, Eric Cheng, DBA, The Lotus Table. Eric. My brother. I flipped the pages so fast they crinkled. My eyes locked on the signature line. My name was there in a crude imitation of my handwriting. I hadn't signed anything. My mouth went dry. A loud buzzing filled my ears like static. I realized I was standing. My breath had gone shallow. They wouldn't do this. But deep down, I knew they would. I dropped the packet on the coffee table as if it burned. I forced myself to sit, pressing my palms hard into my knees. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I'd bailed Eric out before. His credit card at 22, his DUI lawyer at 25. The small loan for the food truck at 28 that became my entire savings. All those promises, I'll pay you back. We're family, don't abandon him. But this wasn't asking, this was theft. I picked up my phone. My thumb hovered over her number. Mom. Flashes of memory, her voice praising me for being responsible, scolding me for not understanding Eric, reminding me he was sensitive, struggling, not like you. I pressed call. It rang twice before she picked up, her voice soft and unbothered. Melissa, how's work? My voice cracked. Mom, I got something in the mail today. You want to explain why I'm on the hook for Eric's restaurant loan? Silence. The air between us felt tight, strained. Oh, she said eventually, her tone practiced. You got those already. Good. Why don't you come home for dinner tomorrow? We'll talk about it then. My hand shook. This isn't a conversation, this is fraud. She let out that familiar sigh, the one she used when I wouldn't play along. Melissa, don't be dramatic. Come home. Your father and Eric will be here. We'll explain everything. Before I could answer, she hung up. Eric. I sat there in the dark, the glow of my phone screen lighting the tears on my face. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept replaying her voice in my head. Don't be dramatic. By dawn, I'd gone from shaking to cold, clear resolve. I wasn't going to let them talk me out of it. I was going to get answers. I showered, dressed in black slacks and a button-down blouse I usually saved for client meetings, and drove south from Oakland toward Fremont. The freeway was quiet for once, the pale light of early morning spilling over the hills. I rehearsed what I'd say. This is fraud. This is criminal. I'm not paying. But my stomach twisted with dread. When I pulled onto their street, I sat for a moment behind the wheel. Their house hadn't changed, gray siding, white trim, my mother's neatly pruned roses. It looked warm, safe, nothing like the place where everything was about to come apart. I forced myself out of the car. Eric's beat-up silver SUV was already in the driveway. Seeing it there made my jaw clench. I rang the bell. My mother opened the door wearing an apron, smiling too brightly. Melissa, you're early. Come in, honey. I stepped inside. The scent of ginger and soy sauce hit me, a homey smell meant to soothe. Dad was at the kitchen table with the newspaper. He looked up, his mouth tightening into a thin line. Eric sat slumped at the far end, pretending to scroll his phone, but his leg was jittering beneath the chair. I didn't sit. I held up the packet. Explain. Now. My mother flinched but kept her smile. Melissa, please, don't start like this. Like what? Upset you forged my signature? Dad's eyes narrowed. Watch your tone, he said, voice deep, commanding. I barked a humorless laugh. Or what, you'll sue me? Oh, wait, you already did. Eric finally looked up. His eyes were rimmed red. Mel, come on, it wasn't supposed to be a big deal. Not a big deal? My voice cracked. I forced it back down, calm, controlled. $320,000 under my name? My mother spread her hands. We were going to tell you, but you're so difficult about these things. I stared. Difficult for not wanting my credit ruined? For not wanting to commit fraud? Eric wiped his nose with the back of his hand. I was going to pay you back. It's just, this was my last chance. You know the restaurant is all I have. My heart twisted despite everything. He sounded so lost, but I'd heard that voice before. Every time he crashed a car, every time he maxed a credit card, every time he lost a job. I shook my head. Eric, I've bailed you out for a decade. You're not my responsibility. He sniffed, staring at the floor. Dad set his coffee cup down with a click. We're family. We help each other. No, I said, voice steady now. You help him. I pay for it. Mom's mouth tightened. Melissa, don't do this. Don't be cruel. He's your brother. He's a grown man who forged my name. Eric's voice cracked. I didn't want to. Dad said it was the only way. He said you'd help if you understood. I closed my eyes. It hurt. It actually hurt to hear it. Dad's chair scraped back. He stood towering over me. We did what we had to do. You're ungrateful, after everything we've given you. I laughed, bitter. Everything you've given me, like paying my tuition? Oh, wait, you didn't. Like helping with my first apartment? You didn't. You gave me guilt trips, bills, and your favorite phrase, do it for Eric. Mom's voice cracked for real then. Melissa, if you go to the police, if you make this ugly, you're not welcome here anymore. I swallowed hard. She meant it. She always did. Eric looked like he might cry. Dad looked furious enough to hit something. And me, I felt strangely calm. I nodded once. Okay, I won't stay for dinner. I'm leaving. Mom's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist. Her fingers dug in hard enough to bruise. Melissa, don't you dare. I looked at her, really looked. The woman who packed my lunches, who brushed my hair when I was little. Now threatening me like a stranger. I pulled my wrist free. I'm done, I said softly. No one followed me. I walked back to my car, closed the door, and just sat there. My whole body shook, but I didn't cry. I refused to give them that. I turned the key in the ignition and drove away without looking back. I don't remember much about the drive home, just that I kept the windows down even though it was freezing. I needed the wind on my face to keep me alert, to keep me from crying. By the time I got back to my apartment, the sky was already dark. Streetlights cast harsh shadows on the cracked sidewalk. I sat in my car with the engine off, listening to it tick as it cooled. A voice in my head whispered, maybe you should just pay it. It was tempting, so simple. Just pay it off and make it all go away. I could do it. I had savings, a good salary, no kids or spouse to answer to. I'd spent years being careful precisely because no one else ever was. Family helps family. I pressed my forehead to the steering wheel and exhaled slowly. Images flickered behind my eyes. Eric at 16 getting caught shoplifting. Me lying to Dad that it was my fault. Eric at 22 sobbing on my shoulder after crashing his car drunk. Eric, at 25, shaking when he confessed about the DUI and begged me to help with the lawyer fees. Me writing the checks. Every single time. I thought I was being a good sister. I thought it was love. Now it felt like poison. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. I glanced at the screen. Mom, I didn't answer. Another buzz. Dad. Voicemail. I didn't want to hear them. I couldn't. Eventually, I climbed the stairs to my apartment. I didn't bother turning on the main light. I walked straight to the kitchen and drank water straight from the tap, gulp after gulp. My hands were shaking. I left the loan packet on the table, unopened, like a monster lurking in plain sight. The next morning, I woke on the couch with my neck stiff, heart pounding from a nightmare I couldn't remember. I opened my email, trying to work, but couldn't focus. The spreadsheet cells blurred. Instead, I opened a blank document and started typing everything that happened. Every word my parents said, the look on Eric's face, my own words so cold and final. I needed to see it laid out. I needed it to be real. Halfway through, I started crying. Quietly at first, then in ugly, gasping sobs. I wasn't supposed to be this person. I wasn't supposed to be the daughter who turned on her family. What would people say if they knew? She sued her own parents. She ruined her brother's life. She's heartless. I heard the judgment in my own head. But then another voice whispered, quieter but firmer. They did this. I hadn't forged anything. I hadn't lied. I hadn't stolen. They had. I closed my eyes and let the tears come. When I finally calmed down, the apartment felt too quiet. I checked my phone again. 4 missed calls from Mom, 2 voicemails from Dad, a single text from Eric. Please don't ruin this for me. I deleted it. My fingers hovered over my contacts. For a moment, I thought about calling them back. Apologizing, making peace. Then I thought about signing away my future. Number I called Sarah instead. Sarah had been my roommate in college, the one person who'd seen me at my worst and never flinched. She picked up on the second ring. Mel, you okay? That did it. My voice cracked. Number, I'm really not. Talk to me. I told her everything. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Then she spoke slowly, carefully. Melissa, that's fraud. That's a crime. You know that, right? I know, I whispered. You can't just let them do this. I swallowed. But they're my parents. I don't care if they're the Pope. They stole from you. They lied. You can't let them ruin your life because they think they own you. Her words were like a slap. They stung. But they woke me up. I wiped my eyes. I don't know what to do. We'll figure it out. First thing tomorrow, call the bank. Report the fraud. Then find a lawyer. A real one. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Promise me, Mel, don't go back there alone. I promise. I let out a shaky breath. Thank you. That's what friends are for. We hung up. I sat there in the silence, staring at the loan packet on the table. My chest still hurt. My eyes burned. But for the first time since I opened that envelope, I felt something like clarity. They wanted me to choose them over myself. This time, I wouldn't. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd aged 10 years overnight. My eyes were swollen from crying, but my mind was clear. I made coffee, sat at my dining table, and opened the loan packet one more time. I forced myself to read every line. Borrower, Eric Cheng. Guarantor, Melissa Cheng. Signature forged. My name, my credit, my responsibility. I picked up my phone and called the bank's fraud hotline. After a maze of menus, I finally got a human on the line. I need to report fraudulent use of my signature on a business loan, I said, voice shaking. The rep asked for my details. I recited them automatically, then she said it. We'll need you to file a formal fraud affidavit. Once we receive it, we'll begin the investigation. My heart pounded. Okay, send me the forms. When I hung up, I felt like I'd taken the first real step, but it didn't feel good. It felt like treason. I spent the rest of the day gathering what I had, scans of my signature from old tax returns, emails from work, anything to prove I hadn't signed. I called Sarah again. "You're doing the right thing," she said. I wanted to believe her. 2 days later, I got a text from Mom. "We need to talk. Don't do anything stupid." I ignored it. Then Eric called. "Mel, please, don't make this a big deal. The bank called me. They said there's an investigation, you're ruining everything." I pressed my lips together so hard they hurt. "I didn't ruin anything. You did when you lied." He sniffed. "Mom's crying every day. Dad's furious. You're tearing us apart." That one got me. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to stay calm. "I'm not the one who committed fraud, Eric. I'm not paying for your mistakes anymore." He didn't say goodbye. He just hung up. A week later, I got served. I'd just gotten home from work, arms full of groceries. A knock at the door. When I opened it, a man in a blue windbreaker handed me an envelope without meeting my eyes. "Melissa Cheng?" "Yes?" "You've been served." He walked away before I could even process it. I stood there frozen in the doorway, plastic grocery bags biting into my fingers. I closed the door mechanically, dropped everything on the floor, and ripped the envelope open. Plaintiffs Catherine and David Cheng. Defendant Melissa Cheng. Claim breach of verbal agreement to guarantee loan repayment for Eric Cheng's business. Amount in controversy $320,000. My vision swam. I sank to the floor. They weren't just angry, they were trying to ruin me. That night, I listened to all the voicemails I'd been ignoring. Mom's voice cracked with forced sorrow. "Melissa, please, let's fix this. Don't make it worse. You're breaking my heart." Dad's voice was harsher. "You always were ungrateful. We did everything for you. You can't turn your back on your own family." Eric's was worst of all. "I can't believe you're doing this. I'll lose everything." "How can you live with yourself?" I sat there in the dark, phone in my lap. I felt hollow, but under the hollowness was something like anger. Cold, sharp. The next morning, I took the lawsuit packet to work. My hands shook as I walked into Sarah's office. She's a paralegal. She read every line, her expression growing darker. "This is bullshit," she said finally. I didn't respond, I just felt numb. She picked up her phone. "I know someone. Family and business fraud cases. She's a shark. I'll get you in." I just nodded. I had no idea how to fight, but I was ready to try. 2 days later, I was sitting in a sleek, modern office in downtown Oakland. The walls were lined with framed degrees. The lawyer across from me was Angela Park, early 40s, black hair cut into a sharp bob, no-nonsense eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses. She scanned the lawsuit papers in silence. When she finally looked up, her voice was calm but deadly precise. "Melissa, what they did is fraud. Identity theft, it's criminal." My heart pounded. Can they really win this lawsuit? She shook her head slightly. "Not if we do this right, but they'll make it ugly. They're hoping you'll cave." I swallowed. "Can you help me?" She gave a small nod. "Yes, but you have to help yourself first. We need evidence." I spent the next 3 weeks living in 2 places, my apartment and Angela's office. I took time off work, using up vacation I'd hoarded for years. I went through every old email, text, receipt. Angela's instructions were clear. Show me a pattern. Show me their history of treating you like a bank. Show me threats, guilt trips, anything that proves they knew you'd resist and planned to trap you. At first, I felt sick reading it all. Emails from Mom. "You know you'll help if you love your brother." Text from Eric. "I'll pay you back this time, I promise." My own polite responses, of course. "Sure, I can help. I printed them all. Angela looked through them, marking them with neon tabs. This establishes coercion, but we need something stronger. I dug deeper. I pulled out the old lockbox from under my bed. Inside were tax returns, scanned signatures. I highlighted every legitimate signature I could find. We compared them side by side with the loan packet. Angela exhaled, satisfied. Not even close. Their forgery is sloppy. We'll get a handwriting expert if we have to. One night, around 2 a.m., I found the email. It was 3 years old. Subject, Eric's loan. Mom to Dad. We'll have to use her info. She won't agree if we ask. Just fill it in. Dad's reply, she won't call the cops. She's too proud to ruin the family. My stomach twisted. I printed it, highlighted it. Angela read it twice. This is gold. The next day, she sent a formal letter to the bank. Fraud claim, cease and desist on collections. We filed a police report. She helped me write a sworn statement. I felt sick the entire time. Part of me still wanted to apologize, but Angela wouldn't let me. Melissa, they made you responsible for their lies. Stop letting them own your guilt. Meanwhile, the calls didn't stop. Mom, in her weeping voice, Eric's not eating. He's depressed. Don't do this to him. Dad, angry, threatening. You think you're so smart? This will follow you forever. You'll regret humiliating us. Eric, pitiful. I'm sorry, okay? Just drop it, please. I saved every voicemail. Angela had me transcribe them all. We met with the bank's fraud investigator. I sat across from him, heart in my throat, as Angela laid out our evidence. He flipped through the emails, the signatures, the text exchanges. He didn't say much, but at the end he nodded once. We'll suspend collections pending investigation. You'll get confirmation in writing. When we left, I sat in my car and cried. Not out of sadness, out of sheer relief. But Angela wasn't done. We need to go on offense. They're suing you for breach of an imaginary contract. We're going to countersue for fraud, damages, and fees. I stared at her. I can't afford this forever. She actually smiled, a small, fierce thing. They'll pay for that too if we win. That weekend, I drove to Sarah's apartment with boxes of files. We sat on her living room floor sorting everything. Emails, texts, voicemails, loan paperwork, old tax returns. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Jesus, Mel, this is thorough. Remind me never to screw you over. I let out a small, choked laugh. First one in weeks. We color-coded everything. Angela wanted a timeline. Sarah and I stayed up past midnight taping sticky notes to her wall in chronological order. Eric's debts, my payments, their requests, my rejections, the forged loan, the confrontation, the threats. By 2 a.m., the wall looked like a detective's office, but for the first time, it felt like I was in control. When I met Angela the next morning, I handed over a perfectly organized binder. She leafed through it, nodding approvingly. This is exactly what I need. You're a damn good client. I felt something loosen in my chest, not happiness, not yet, but a tiny flicker of something like hope. That afternoon, I sat in my apartment alone. I looked at my phone. It was quiet, no calls, no apologies. I thought I'd feel devastated. Instead, I felt steady. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to bail them out. I wasn't going to apologize for wanting my own future. I closed my eyes and let the quiet hold me. The courtroom smelled like stale coffee and fear. I sat at the defendant's table, my hands folded tight in my lap to stop them from shaking. Angela sat beside me, calm as ever, her legal pad perfectly organized. Across the aisle, my parents sat rigid. Mom wore her best navy suit, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Dad kept his arms folded, jaw clenched like stone. Eric was between them, hunched, eyes downcast, tapping one knee nervously. They wouldn't look at me. The judge was a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair. She called us to order, voice steady and unhurried. My heart pounded. Angela opened our side with quiet authority. Your Honor, the plaintiff claims my client verbally agreed to guarantee a $320,000 loan for her brother's failing restaurant. We will demonstrate that not only was there no such agreement, but that the plaintiffs forged her signature, committed fraud, and have a documented pattern of financial coercion. My parents' lawyer, a slick man in a tailored suit, rose with his own rehearsed solemnity. This is a family matter, Your Honor, a misunderstanding. They simply relied on the long history of Melissa helping her brother. It was an implicit understanding she would help again. I felt sick listening to him paint me as ungrateful. Then it was my turn to testify. I stood, swore the oath, and sat in the witness box. Angela's questions were calm, precise. Melissa, did you ever sign this loan document? No. Did you ever verbally agree to guarantee this loan? No. She showed me the document with my forged signature. Is this your signature? Number A? It doesn't even match. She moved on to the emails. Can you read the highlighted portion? I swallowed hard and read it out loud. We'll have to use her info. She won't agree if we ask. Just fill it in. My voice cracked a little, but I kept going. Angela's voice stayed calm. How did that email make you feel? I blinked back tears, betrayed, like they'd planned this for years. Then it was cross-examination. My parents' lawyer approached, voice oily smooth. Melissa, isn't it true you financially helped your brother many times before? Yes. So why would this be any different? Because I didn't agree to it. Because it was fraud he spread his hands. Or perhaps you just regret it now that you're angry with your family. My fingers dug into my skirt. I regret ever thinking they wouldn't do this to me. He tried to rattle me. Melissa, you make good money, don't you? Couldn't you afford it? Angela objected. The judge sustained, but I still answered, voice low and steady. I can afford many things, not being stolen from. Next, Angela called the bank's fraud investigator. He testified about the irregularities. IP addresses that didn't match my devices, signature analysis, the formal fraud affidavit I'd filed. He confirmed the loan was now frozen under investigation. Then Angela submitted the entire timeline. My payments for Eric's past debts, the family emails, the voicemail threats. I watched the judge read the highlighted email chain, her mouth tightening. Finally, Eric was called. He looked miserable on the stand. Angela's voice was soft but relentless. Eric, did you know Melissa didn't agree to guarantee your loan? He hesitated. I thought she would. Did you ask her? No. Did you know your parents planned to use her information without asking? He stared at the table. They said it was the only way. Angela let the silence hang in the air. I felt my heart twist. Even now, I didn't want to see him destroyed. But I wasn't going to save him either. In closing arguments, Angela didn't raise her voice. Your Honor, this is not a family misunderstanding. It is forgery. It is fraud. It is betrayal dressed up as duty. My parents' lawyer talked about tradition, sacrifice, obligation. But the words felt hollow. When the judge finally ruled, the air felt electric. She spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. This court finds no evidence of any enforceable agreement by the defendant to guarantee this loan. The evidence of forgery and fraud is compelling. The lawsuit is dismissed with prejudice. I further award partial legal costs to the defendant. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I didn't look at my parents. I didn't need to. Their lawyer was already turning away. My father's face had gone pale. Mom clutched her tissue with shaking hands. Eric just looked broken. Angela touched my shoulder gently. It's over, she said. A week later, I sat on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. I'd moved to Alameda, just across the water, but it felt like a world away. The place was smaller, older. The paint was chipped in places, but it was mine. No one else's name on the lease. No one else's debts to pay. I spent hours one evening just watching the light shift across the worn wooden floors. The silence felt heavy at first, then it felt like relief. No more midnight phone calls demanding I be reasonable. No more threats, no more apologies I didn't mean. Angela had called to confirm the bank formally voided the personal guarantee after their fraud investigation. My credit would heal eventually. They wouldn't be able to use my name again. One afternoon, I checked my mail and found a small padded envelope with no return address. Inside was my grandmother's jade bracelet. I hadn't seen it in years. There was a note scrawled in shaky handwriting. Melissa, this was always meant for you. Be strong. Love, Popo. I held it against my chest until the tears came. A few days later, Sarah invited me over for dinner. She made pasta, overcooked and mushy the way she always did. We sat on her tiny balcony drinking cheap red wine. At one point, she raised her glass. To doing the hard thing. I clinked it quietly, to not letting them own me anymore. That night, back home, I got a text from an unknown number. Hi, Melissa, I'm Tara. I saw your story through Angela's office. I reported my dad for using my credit. Froze my accounts today. First time I've stood up to him. Just wanted to say thank you. I read it twice. Then I typed back, I'm proud of you. Stay strong. Later, sitting at my old battered desk, I opened a new document on my laptop. I titled it simply, What Happened. I wasn't sure if I'd share it, but I needed to write it, to see it on the page, to remember I didn't imagine it, that it was real, that I survived it. I thought about everything I'd lost, my parents, my brother, the illusion of safety, but I also thought about what I'd kept, my integrity, my future, my self-respect. Justice didn't erase the damage, but it rebalanced the scales enough for me to walk away. And sometimes that's all you can ask for. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If it resonates with you, or you know someone who needs to hear it, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us keep telling the stories that don't always get heard.